Atul, can you hear us?
Thanks, Ganesh.
Thank you, Atul. And I think, Atul, you can share your screen and then we can get started.
Yeah, thanks, Ganesh. So let me know if the screen is visible.
Yeah, I think you have to make it full screen now, Atul. I think, yeah, we're able to see your
Yeah,
PowerPoint.
I will do that. Is it fine?
Yes, Atul, loud and clear. Please go on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ganesh. Thanks everyone for joining me for this talk on this, Saturday weekend evening. I really appreciate that. And that makes the difference, between a security professional and a normal professional. So, kind of passionate professionals can go, can sacrifice their weekends for actually learning more and more about security. So that's the way I have worked for the past 15, 16 years. So this topic which I'm going to cover today is technical security audit of cloud. Now, it will look a bit different from the name, that technical security of the cloud, and there is a reason which you will get to know while we cover the entire presentation. There is a reason behind that. I would like to, even in the beginning, I would like to put a disclaimer that these all views, whatever thoughts I am going to present, all these views are my own personal. It has nothing to do with any of the organization where I work. Like, I'm not going to share any, confidential data or anything. So just wanted to put this across. And so this is the agenda which we are going to cover. I can understand there will be wide variety of audience with varied level of cloud experience. So we will probably put a, kind of foundation, little bit of foundation in terms of the cloud architecture, the services provided by the cloud providers, etc. Little bit of, and then we will, dive deep into the topic, the real meat of the, the presentation which we have today. And this is that agenda. You can see this agenda for a minute, then I will go to the next slide. Right, thank you. Now, this is a very common definition of cloud computing, which many of you would have come across. This is from NIST, and this is something which is probably the best definition of cloud computing, I would call it as, and that's why I thought of putting it here in as a introduction slide. And it actually summarizes the cloud computing very well. So you can find it on the internet very easily, but you can read it here as well. Cloud computing is a model for enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources, network servers, storage applications, etc., that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. So that's what the cloud computing is. It could be public cloud, it could be private cloud, it could be hybrid cloud, it could be any type of cloud, but the ground rules remain same. So it's a definition coined by NIST. Then, as I said, I do not know the exact background of all the audience, so I've just included a few slides showcasing what the cloud computing is. So you can see that, yeah, before I get into the audit, I should explain what the platform I'm talking about. So you can see what is cloud computing. You can see in this slide on the left hand side, there is a diagram which showcases applications, platforms, infrastructure inside an image which looks like a cloud. So it showcases that this cloud actually covers the infrastructure components, platform components, and application components, which can be accessed from outside this cloud via desktops, tablets, iPhones, laptops, servers, etc. So it is something which can be simultaneously accessed by by users from across the globe. Their position, their location doesn't matter, etc. It could be an application component, it could be platform, or it could be an infrastructure component. And then on the right hand side, what you see is the cloud impact. And these are the 4 attributes of cloud computing which have probably made the cloud computing as such a big buzz name these days. So cost. Organizations save a lot of cost when they use cloud computing because their capital expenditure reduces and their operational expenditure reduces. Both of the things reduces. They get a lot of growth because of the other factors. Productivity increases of employees, and agility, of course, we know. agility increases. So this is the impact of cloud. And that's the key difference between cloud computing and the traditional, on-premise computing. And then a little bit on the 5 primary attributes of cloud computing: on-demand, self-service, broad network access, rapid elasticity, measured service, resource pooling. Again, these are very common definitions. I don't want to get into the details of these definitions, but these are the attributes which actually make cloud computing what it is. So basically, these things have come up and made cloud computing. These things are not present in the traditional on-premise infrastructure type of computing. It is there now with us at our disposal just because of cloud computing. So you can measure the service, you can pool resources with different customers, you can have a broad network access across the network, you can have on-demand self-service, etc. So these are the core attributes of cloud computing. And then a bit on high-level cloud architecture. And thanks to Cloud Security Alliance for a couple of images in the next few slides. And these are the very common cloud deployment models. Many of you would be aware of these models: private cloud, community, hybrid, and public. Private cloud is something which is, kind of a cloud. Like it's a cloud infrastructure which utilizes all cloud technologies, but it is contained within the infrastructure of an organization, and it is completely utilized by them only, from hardware to application level, every single thing. Then the community cloud, which is like, many of the organizations or communities who have got a single type of goal, utilize the cloud infrastructure for shared reasons. Hybrid cloud is the cloud which we see these days. Like wherever I've seen the cloud, mostly it is hybrid cloud. Now, what is hybrid cloud? Earlier it was like combination of 2 clouds, AWS or Azure, on an organization having infrastructure in AWS and Azure both. That was hybrid cloud. These days this is much more complex. It could be a combination of a private cloud, public cloud component connected with a on-premise component. All these things are being coined as hybrid cloud these days. And then finally, public cloud, which is like a completely public cloud provided by a public cloud provider like AWS, wherein actually you share the infrastructure and with other customers of that cloud customer. So these are the 4 most common type of cloud deployment models. And the next one is this is a kind of matrix which showcases, how is the infrastructure owned in terms of these cloud models, which I discussed in the previous slide. Public cloud, it is third-party provider. Infrastructure is owned by third-party provider, located at the off-premises and accessed by, untrusted, means anybody can actually connect, they can pay the fee and start using. Private and community, you can see it is used. It can be organization hosted, owned by an organization or a third-party provider, same owned by infrastructure owned by, and then located on-premise or off-premise. And it is mostly used by trusted because, it is used by trusted because the entities which use them trust each other. And then hybrid, both organization and third-party provider, in the sense it could be, a combination of a private cloud and on-premise infrastructure, or it could be a combination of, public cloud and private cloud and on-premises infrastructure. And again, it is used by trusted and untrusted both. Then a bit on the roles and responsibilities. These are the basics of cloud computing security. So I have to cover these: SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. So SaaS is software as a service, PaaS is platform as a service, and IaaS is infrastructure as a service, the base level 3 service models for cloud computing. And this talks about what are the consumer's responsibility and what are the provider's activities. Why this slide is important? Because this slide only forms the base of cloud computing security. So customers have got a big chunk of responsibility in terms of cloud computing. So they cannot shy away saying that, okay, I have taken the service from, a cloud service provider, and security is like accountability is theirs. No, accountability falls with the customers only, and they have got their own responsibility in terms of maintaining the security, and consumer, provider have got their own responsibilities. And of course, as we pick up the model in terms of SaaS, we have got the least, as a consumers have got the least number of activities, responsibilities for from security perspective. As we go down more toward the infrastructure, if you go down to infrastructure as a service, the responsibilities increase from consumers perspective. Then a bit on service provided by the cloud providers. So again, we will go to the three models: SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. And there are various kind of service providers. Google Cloud, GCP, started as a PaaS provider. Later on, they learned it and they changed it to complete cloud hosting service. AWS started their journey differently. So now I can see there is lot of there are a lot of parallel tracks which run between these different providers in terms of these models. But at the higher level, the services which they provide in terms of these models remain same. So for an infrastructure as a service consumer, there will be storage, there will be probably platform for hosting, there will be compute resources, etc. And SaaS customers will probably be kind of getting access to some of the applications which they need as per their business need, like ERP, sales, CRM, content management, etc. And PaaS customers are mostly the they do it for software development reasons. So you can see it's database, application deployment, etc. Most of the major cloud providers provide infrastructure as a service and PaaS both. SaaS is something which we get from many providers, and it all depends on their business needs. So now, applicable audit standards. Now, what you see here are some of the most important auditing standards names which probably would have come across during your career: ISO, PCI, SOC 2, GDPR, NIST. Now, why I have covered these standards here is because these are the big names. These are very vast standards. And whenever we talk about audit, most of the people correlate audit with either ISO or PCI or GDPR or SOC, etc. And this is true as well, because most of the regulators actually ask the organizations to comply with GDPR or SOC 2 or ISO, that kind of stuff. But what I have seen in my career, I have spent almost 80% of my time managing operations, designing and implementing solutions, and some 20% of my time in performing audits. So what I have seen is when we perform an external audit or even an internal audit, working as an internal auditor, the scope is limited, the time frame is limited, and there is a gap. What I have seen, there is a gap in terms of actually sometimes getting to the depth of the configuration and actually trying to uncovering the real security issues. So these standards are there, but what I'm trying to pitch in is, I've been trying to pitch this thing in, trying to champion this thing for quite some time, which is outside of these standards. This IT leaders, IT security leaders should actually think about building an audit strategy, a regular audit strategy. We can call it as a QA strategy, or a regular audit strategy team within their operational teams. And I've successfully, developed these teams for a few of my customers in my, previous engagements. And I'm currently also trying. The reason is cloud, as we know, is a comparatively relatively new technology. Still people know a bit less in comparison to the on-premise infrastructure, which is there for ages. Unix and all are Windows and are there for ages. And the way we configure the the cloud infrastructure, the way we implement the cloud infrastructure application controls is a bit different than than the regular stuff what we have. So it's very complex. It's very complex. So we need to have a QA function or an audit function within each operations team, which should actually work on first it should actually develop an assessment or audit standard of its own, which can take certain attributes, certain things from these standards. Definitely, these are the base. GDPR, SOC, PCI are the base, but they should build a standard of their own, which is customized to their cloud infrastructure, and use that for regularly auditing their infrastructure, cloud infrastructure. It can be used for on-premise also, but the topic here is cloud, so I'm talking about cloud. And regularly audit that your infrastructure, their infrastructure, and uncover the threats. Which, see, if I'm actually kind of seeing something day and night, configuring it, I know the gaps of that thing better. If I can kind of draft a checklist looking at the standards, then it is easier for me to figure out any potential threat than somebody who is coming there for a 2 weeks audit and trying to go through a various list of controls. So I've been trying this for some time. I have successfully got this strategy established for some of my customers, and it's a work in progress for some of the others. So that's the reason I brought forward this slide, so that I can explain that these standards are there, but we need to do a bit more than that. So from here, we will start the technical security audit. Now, technical security auditing challenges with cloud computing. So again, these auditing challenges are somewhat related to the auditing challenges if you perform a PCI audit of an organization, including of their cloud infrastructure. But there are a few points here which are, more related to the technical audit, definition, as I explained. Let me explain a bit. For example, scoping. Now, scoping for a technical security audit, as I explained, is something, let's say there is an operations team and the organization has gone through, a security breach, for example. And now this operations team, which knows their infrastructure well, their security control well, have to actually audit and find out a root cause and see why this particular breach happened and what went wrong, what did we do wrong. So scoping, in the sense, they would have to actually understand, let's say they have a sprawling infrastructure going haywire here and there, new cloud accounts coming every day. So what they can do is they can scope it well. They can understand where is their critical data, what data leaked, or whatever breach happened, where all they can find that data which leaked from one location, which could have been leaked from some other location as well. Scope it well, try to figure out, like if you have 100 accounts, cloud accounts, and you actually have critical data in only 5 of them, then scope it well, and concentrate on those 5 accounts, and get on hold of your right information about your accounts, so that you can concentrate and actually pull the right security control related information through your audit. Inadequate risk assessment. Now, this is mostly not the case, but yeah, sometimes. Now, the internal risk assessment in some organizations I have seen is standard is not fully in line to cloud security requirements. So if the internal team wants to, kind of piggyback on the internal risk assessment standards for something, sometimes it will not support. Sometimes it supports as well, but yeah, it is a kind of roadblock. Then comparatively less controls than on-premise infrastructure. Now, when we handle a cloud, comparing to an on-premise infrastructure, even if we use infrastructure as a service, we have less controls than completely having a full-fledged on-premise infrastructure. Sometimes we find difficulty in penetration testing. You need to get some specific approvals from the cloud providers. Sometimes you find difficulty in forensics. There are some operational difficulties which we kind of encounter when we have this cloud infrastructure in place instead of on-premise. One of the very common, important point is mindset. Now, what mindset is? So traditionally, audit is something which is being done by the external and the internal auditors of the organization. What I'm trying to, showcase is, okay, let them do their work, but operations team who are most close to the infrastructure, who know it ins and out, and who have got the right access to change the things rapidly, put the right controls, if they find out the gaps, they should do it. But how will they do if the management buy-in is not there? So if the management mindset is that operations team, the security infrastructure operations team, or the incident response center operations team should, should not invest their time in these type of activities, then there is no way to go ahead. You need management buy-in. So that mindset needs to be changed a bit. And then sampling is like, it is the same problem as in a traditional audit. You have to select the right sample. You cannot do audit of everything. And then rapidly changing landscape. Now, what is rapidly changing landscape? We all know cloud. I have seen, customers with, multiple accounts coming up in a month's time frame, like 20, 30 accounts coming up in it. They have so much of aggressive, timelines in terms of cloud adoption that it's very difficult to keep track for the security team also. So if you are auditing, you have developed a standard for AWS, and you are doing an audit of AWS in standard, and all of a sudden you get to know that a year back organization had actually acquired another organization which had their infrastructure on GCP. So GCP standard, now bang on, you don't have any GCP standard in terms of audit or even security. So this is where it becomes challenging. So rapidly you have to change your strategies. You need to bring right people. So that's why little proactiveness is required. So we need to keep standards ready for at least few of the most common providers. Yeah,
Atul, maybe we can take a kind of a small pause for questions, and then before we go to the next part, right? So can we have a few questions now? Actually, can I ask you a few questions, because we have some questions from the participants?
Do I need to read?
No. I'll read the questions. I'll do the MC for you. You can just answer it like a fireside chat, right? So Atul, the first thing, I think you rightly brought out the auditing challenges in the slide. But as an organization or an auditor, how should I see the dimensions of the cloud, right? For example, PaaS versus SaaS, and being in a private cloud to a hybrid cloud. So how do you see these dimensions when you're auditing it? Because this is very important. Some organization, they have some some products which they host in SaaS. Some organization get a PaaS service, and some of them do a combination, and some of them say I stick to the hybrid cloud, or some of them say no, I want a private cloud. So how does the audit change when you have these dimension in a kind of a short format?
So yeah, so Ganesh, I will go with the, as I said, I will go with the most critical data. If it is in SaaS, if it is in IaaS, I don't care. So if it is SaaS, I will target the the infrastructure or the applications which carry the most critical data, and I will try to audit them first. I will define the scope, including those applications first. We'll perform the audit, and then we'll move on to the next critical data, set of critical data. Is that something which the question required? If I understood.
No, I think
correctly.
I get the point. I get the point that you go with the criticality of the data.
Yeah.
But again, just a kind of a reminder, like the way we approach PaaS, the way we approach SaaS, right? It can be different, right? Because PaaS can have more set of controls, or SaaS you have limited set of controls from an organization perspective, right? So in terms of control scoping and things like that, what do you see as a major difference or a challenge when we do the audit?
Okay, now I got it. So yeah, so the challenge is in infrastructure. The IaaS provides so many controls that you sometimes feel that you are lost. There are. If you ask me, the easiest thing to do audit is the SaaS part, wherein because most of the controls which you look forward to are related to access authentication, sometimes logging, mostly identity and access management and logging related controls. So that's the easiest part, while the toughest is infrastructure as a service, where there are so many controls. It's a sea of controls, and you have to select the right controls which actually can secure the data which you want to secure. So if you have data in the in the database RDS, you have got different type of controls which you need to implement and audit accordingly. And if the data is instead there in S3 bucket, you have got a different type of controls. So you need to have a knowledge of all those things before you start working on it.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I think, yeah, with respect to S3, and again, it depends on the platform and the vendor as well. Yeah. And I have a question from Arun Sharma, the next question. Arun is asking, as the cloud providers are offering their services for public, private, and hybrid cloud, what are the vulnerabilities and threat that providers are exposed to? So do you see the vulnerabilities and threats being different for different cloud environments, or how do you see that?
I have many slides on this after this, so probably it will explain. I have a complete case study on AWS.
Okay, yeah, okay. So we'll hear that, no problem. And the next question is from Prashant NH. Prashant is asking, based on the experience, how much percentage of audit can be automated when we do kind of a cloud? Like, what is the percentage, like automatic versus manual? And he also says that there are tools like HCL BigFix, which allows to enforce proactively NIST and other framework controls depending upon the organization requirements. So he's talking more about automation and the tools which can be used for cloud auditing or cloud compliance.
A lot can be automated.
Example, like top, yeah, any example in terms of like AWS or Azure in your view, like what you have seen?
So for example, there is a tool called Cloud Conformity from from, I think it's from Trend Micro. Yes, Trend Micro. So similarly, AWS provides a tool called AWS Inspector. So these tools actually provide in-depth reports on your configuration baselines, etc. So Cloud Conformity provide very detailed reports, very detailed use cases, which you can actually pick and directly see, what is the level of your security in terms of configuration baselines, etc. Those things. So there's something known as AWS Access Analyzer, which provides you detailed reports on your IAM access levels. There are many things which you can derive out of Access Analyzer. So there are quite a few tools present in at least in AWS, which can be utilized for of course you have to manually review the reports.
Yeah.
But you don't need to actually go and review each and everything individually by your own. You will get a good report, but of course, reviewing the report will be a task which needs to be delivered. But I would say there are quite good tools present as a native tool in AWS, as well as third-party tool through AWS Marketplace, which can help you automating these things.
Yeah, and I think even I have seen in Azure, you have the native tools like Azure Security Center, Azure Sentinel, which can help to monitor the compliance against standards and controls. Yeah, that's a good one, Atul. Atul, those are the first set of questions. So I think we can continue with the topic, and then maybe towards the end, we'll take up a few more questions then. Thank
Sure.
you, Atul. Yeah, please move on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. So we'll come to native security services provided by the cloud providers. Now, this is a complete, this slide is my brainchild. Some people can actually design this slide a bit differently, but I have designed it this way. Now, what you can see is like, we have got like this thing runs in parallel to our infrastructure security. You can see those familiar names of application security, container security, network security, but underneath to these names, what goes underneath is quite a bit different than in the infrastructure security. The network security in cloud is quite different than network security in a traditional infrastructure, on-premise data center. So I designed it this way. So container and instance security is a domain in itself. It actually, we have to review our container and instance security well. Application and serverless security. Serverless is like, it is the base of many applications these days. So serverless has to be reviewed well. Applications security is still, you can apply the same concepts from your traditional application security, but serverless is like something new. Storage security. Storage security for your on-premise infrastructure is a different thing than your storage security of your cloud infrastructure. Identity and access management concepts remain same, but the way we configure identity and access management in cloud is different. Clouds have actually given so much of power to IAM that this particular domain has become so important. It is the backbone of cloud security, if you ask me. Identity and access management. Network security, the concepts remain same, but yeah, the way it is implemented in cloud is different. And security monitoring and response, it is that traditional monitoring, but yes, we have to configure and monitor it differently. So these are the domains which I feel which the operations teams should actually kind of monitor and review regularly. First, they should build the standards around these domains, security standards, customized to their environment, and then regularly monitor their environment so that there is no breach. If there is a breach, it will be a problem. They only will be at the receiving end. So these things should be monitored properly, and they should ensure that the native cloud security services provided by the provider are actually configured well and configured to the extent they should be. So that power given by the cloud provider should be actually utilized. So now we'll come to the sample case study with AWS Cloud. So I've just designed this small diagram. It is ABC Corporation, one fictitious organization, and this diagram talks about complete, infrastructure which this fictitious organization may carry. Left hand side top, you can see it's an on-premise data center, and below that there are mobile users. Right hand side top, there's an AWS cloud, and then SaaS applications are there, and then private cloud. So you can see that there's various level of communications going around between these different components of this infrastructure. Now I'm going to concentrate on AWS part only, instead of we can't cover all of them in today's session only, but AWS is an important component. That's what we are going to cover. So these are the hidden possible threats. Now again, this is a very big topic. These are the possible threats which could be hidden inside this AWS infrastructure of ABC Corporation, which probably the operations team did not know before they started this audit. There could be application security issues. The applications could be there which are not behind the WAF. Role-based access control not utilized for the applications. Network design issues could be there. There could be, uncontrolled internet access. There could be misconfigured, network access control lists. There could be instance security issues. There may not be any EDR solution. There could be misconfigured security groups. Similarly, there could be some problems with buckets. The storage, the S3 buckets could be publicly accessible buckets, which is a very common audit finding these days, publicly accessible buckets. And we have seen some data leakage, incidents as well in the recent past, which happened because of some organizations, one publicly accessible bucket. There could be unencrypted data in buckets. There could be security monitoring issues. CloudTrail not enabled at the regional level. CloudTrail is enabled at the regional level in AWS. And if you don't enable it, that means gone. It's not there. Lack of right use cases in the SIEM. Authentication problems, MFA not enabled. Access problems. So nobody is there to analyze the access. So these are some of the issues. It could be a laundry list of issues, but these are some of the issues which probably the technical operations team did not know, but when they started this audit. So next thing, what they have to do, they have to actually, when they think that, now we have to, kind of deep dive and understand what is the level of our security, cloud security. They have to design one strategy. That strategy could be like this: understanding scope, data collection, audit. Now there is a difference here between this strategy and the regular audit strategy, or any regular consulting engagement, wherein you define the scope first, and then when you start the project, you on the first day or maybe the first week or 2 weeks, you understand the environment, and then you kind of perform the audit and all. Here what I'm saying, because you are sitting next to the wire, you understand everything. You first understand it more because you have the time. It is your bread and butter. The operations team, it's your bread and butter. You are actually having access to most of the controls. You may not have access to directly to some of the controls, but some of your colleagues may have, some other teams. So first sit with them, understand the environment, connect the dots, understand the data flow, network connections, which all business units are using. What is the data criticality in various accounts, past audit observations, if you can get any. Understand all these things and then design the scope. Scope in the sense, you say, okay, GCP and Azure doesn't have my critical data. I'm not going to touch it for now. AWS is having the most critical data, and AWS also having 100 accounts. Out of these, 10 accounts have got the most critical data. I am going to audit these things. So then you concentrate on the scope, design the overall network workload, application security, or it is only AWS, or it is going to be AWS private cloud SaaS. There could be n number of permutation and combination. It all depends on the organization. Once you have defined the scope, then you go to data collection. You collect the the right data, and for operational teams, this data collection will be once in 6 months or once in a year activity. You are not going to collect network designs and hybrid cloud designs daily. You have it and set in a process wherein you keep getting these network diagrams or the stakeholders list if there is a change. So when you are collecting the data, set a process that from there on you keep getting the right information on a regular basis. And then finally do the technical audit. You review your cloud security design against AWS well-architected framework. Now, AWS well-architected framework is actually a very good documentation. It's a model from AWS about setting up the AWS infrastructure well against so many different, I think there are 4 to 5 pillars if I remember, but security is one of them. So performance is another. And it talks about how you can set it up so that your infrastructure, AWS cloud infrastructure, is secure. And you can use industry standards. As I said, you can, if you are a payment company, you can very well use PCI. And but ultimately, these operations teams should not actually get into utilizing, when they do ground level audit, they should not use PCI and all, like long standards. They are very vast in nature. Develop an internal checklist for AWS or Azure or whatever cloud is there, and perform the assessment or audit based on that standard. Now, this is this thing talks about your
Atul,
yeah.
just a quick one. If you go to the previous slide, you have put some of the points as like dot towards end. So this is something like etc. Or because we have questions around that.
Yeah, it is actually I could
Etc.
not write. It's like more to come.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, thanks for clarifying it. Let's
No
move
problem.
on. Yeah.
No problem. So, oh, it's not moving. Yeah. Sorry. So these are some of the topics. These are some of the streams, and these are the controls which can be utilized for setting up your security standard, the auditing standard, network security. So you can see check your VPC level security controls, your internet traffic security controls, your cloud segregation controls, and if you have an on-premise to cloud security, cloud connectivity, you can check that as well, whether it is data is encrypted and VPN is there or not, etc. You can do your container level, security checks, host security controls, container scanning controls, whether your containers are scanned for their operating system vulnerabilities, and access privilege controls. Similarly, storage, like as the name suggests, it keeps the data. So encryption, control on public access, MFA delete control. And as you can see on the slide, there are various domains: identity and access management, serverless security, instance security, application security, security monitoring and response. So there could be more controls. I have written a few, but when we prepare the assessment, there is enough information present on internet. There are so many websites which provide enough information. Even AWS provides enough information which can be utilized to write secure assessment checklist for each of these domains. So some of these things, like Lambda is a good example. Lambda is something new. Lambda is the serverless infrastructure, main serverless infrastructure service which is provided by AWS. So and it is heavily used these days. So we need to have a very nicely written, Lambda's security assessment checklist. Few of the controls I have written, few can be derived from the various security standards. And these, so let's say till this point, this ABC Corporation's, internal operations team was developing the, checklist, and they actually performed the audit. Now, these are possibly the, the possible audit findings which they may uncover when they perform it. So network security, they can probably find multiple internet gateways, misconfigured NACLs, no monitoring of security groups, firewall changes, not so sufficient east-west traffic filtering, application security, container and instance security level issues, identity and access management. Identity and access management is a major, if I prepare any audit report, most of the findings are related to identity and access management, because especially in AWS, IAM is the base, and it gives so much of power, and there is a lot of things which can go wrong with IAM. So IAM is one very important thing. Security monitoring and response, of course. So this ABC Corporation's operations team, after preparing their checklist and all, they can actually receive or uncover these security gaps. Some of the gaps are as for these domains. So what are the takeaways? So as I said in the beginning, I am trying to champion this particular cause. That's why I've written these takeaways also in line to my thinking, my philosophy. So first thing is, cloud technical security audit is a stream in itself. So we all know cloud audit or any audit in itself is a very big thing, and there are many standards which are so big in nature. But cloud technical security audit should not be, kind of used as a kind of sub standard for something like PCI or DSS, sorry, PCI or GDPR. It's a stream in itself, and it should be given enough importance. There are so many controls in the cloud which should be assessed and assessed regularly. Then AWS provides enough security capabilities, enabling quality technical security audit through native and third-party security services. So not only AWS, all of them provide, as like I answered this question earlier also when Ganesh asked, but AWS provides enough of the tools which you can use to actually prevent, implement controls and actually derive reports out of those controls and see how good is your security through native AWS services, as well as through AWS supported third-party softwares, third-party security solutions. Internal IT security teams should involve more and more in the regular assessment. So as I said, in if organizations, like the threat scenario has changed completely in the past 4 or 5 years. If the organizations keep thinking that audit is only the role of external or internal auditor, then breach will keep happening. It can be stopped only if we build an auditing capability right at the ground level, right with the people who actually kind of configure or deploy the devices, configure the controls. And this is what we see in DevSecOps. In DevSecOps, the way we kind of perform the scanning, perform and see the security of the libraries, all those things. Why those things have been brought into the developers table is because it is the best way to ensure that no vulnerable code goes to production. That is the same philosophy which I would like to bring in here, that give the power to the internal IT operations team, give them some bandwidth so that they should perform regular assessment of the tools which they manage or the infrastructure which they deploy. Sometimes they don't have time, but give them some time. And cloud is a comparatively new domain, and control assessment should not be left only to the external auditor. I already explained this. External auditors have got their scope, they have got their own challenges. So it's difficult for them to uncover everything. Organizations should prepare technical control assessment checklists suiting their cloud environment. Again, I said, this should be done at the, this should come as a top-down direction. It should come from the management. People working lone wolf or in silo, some network administrator or cloud administrator creating a checklist and utilizing it for some audit will not work. It should come from the management, then only it will be of use. So these are the takeaways from this presentation. And then few of the things which I could not cover. These are big topics, and these should be kind of audited from cloud security perspective: BCPDR, privacy, change control, configuration management, asset management, data center security, and many of the standards which I referred earlier in my presentation actually cover these topics. But barring few of them, like I can understand configuration management in some of your cloud AWS cloud audits by the technical team, you will probably definitely touch configuration management. But many of these these particular names or these topics are not much of use for the teams, the operations team, for example, the incident response team, or the network security team, or the network engineering team, whom I am trying to target through this presentation. So if they have enough time, they can cover these topics as well. But these topics should not be the most important topics for the assessment. The assessment should still revolve around the technical security controls, which are actually provided natively by the the cloud provider. So S3 bucket security is very important. We have seen publicly accessible buckets leading to direct data leak. we have seen so many such things. So these topics I could not cover. Maybe sometime later in some other session we will cover. But the reason to have this session was to concentrate on technical security audit. And finally, if somebody wants to read more, there are some good documents. There are n number of documents on internet, but these few topics or few links are extremely good. So first is ISACA has released a certificate of cloud auditing knowledge. So this is a good kind of standard certification which ISACA has started. You guys can do it. It's a good knowledge base. Then, as I said, AWS well-architected framework. This actually provides in-depth knowledge of how AWS infrastructure can be secured. CSA Cloud Control Matrix is very detailed control list from the Cloud Security Alliance. It is in Excel format, and anybody can download it and use it for cloud audit. But again, CSA also covers many topics. And CSA is also not as granular as what I explained. CSA also talks a bit higher than the way I have presented it. And then SANS Cloud Security book. SANS is having a very good cloud security book which can be utilized for understanding the cloud security end to end. AWS security documentation is awesome. It is huge, but it is awesome. Then NIST cybersecurity framework is the gold standard. And then CSA Cloud Security Guidance is the book for the CCSK exam. And it is again a very good standard. The technical domains of the CSA Cloud Security Guidance book are something which actually directly relate to what I spoke during the presentation. So I think, Ganesh, I have finished my part. I don't think I have any other slide. Yes, Q&A.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Atul. Let me just bring up the feedback slide. Just give me a minute, and then we can start with the question. Just give me a minute. I'm pulling out the feedback slide. Yeah, I hope everyone is able to see the feedback slide. All right. So Atul, we have got a lot of questions. Okay, I'll just read I've just grouped them logically so that we are back on time as well. So the first question is from Ambika Behera. Ambika is asking if there is any automation to understand the compliance aspect from an application perspective. I understand that the compliance is related to infrastructure and platform, most of them, but I'm curious to know anything related to application level compliance automation. What is there in cloud?
Application level, there are third-party tools, but as I said, AWS is having a tool called AWS Access Analyzer. It provides, good deal of report on the access provisioning for their applications. And if we talk about SaaS application, so it depends on the SaaS provider, the way they want to provision the reports, you have to go with that. And if we talk about applications hosted, through your, for example, you have hosted an application through your cloud infrastructure service, for example, an application which utilizes Lambda and RDS, for example, then yeah, there are tools in AWS to actually see what is your Lambda configuration level, what is your RDS security level. All those things can be automated through tools.
Okay, thanks, Atul. The next question is from Raghunandan, and he's asking, will Cloud Access Security Broker, CASB, will help in bridging the security gaps?
Of course.
So can you throw some light? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so CASB is most important now these days, because nowadays, till very recently, people or the organization had not given enough weightage to CASB, but now people have started understanding. So with CASB, you can manage so many things. You can manage those controls natively without using CASB as well. But CASB gives a right platform actually to manage it centrally from one location. So it works as a gateway to manage your cloud platform. So of course, Cloud CASB provides you more leverage in terms of better managing your security controls and enforcing security.
And do you have the next question is from Madhav Rao. Do you have any kind of a method do you consider for doing sampling when we're doing the cloud audit and the cloud environment? How should we choose the samples? Any tips for that?
Only one thing which I use, as I said earlier, is we figure out where is the most critical data, which buckets, which database. That is the only thing which I have not designed any sample on it yet. But we have to figure out the most critical data, and based on that we have to find out the components which needs to be it's a bit of manual thing which we have till now, which we have used.
Okay, the next question is from Tushar Mathur. Tushar is asking, this is more towards the availability and BCP part, but he's asking a question around, I'm new to cloud and AWS has got many servers that can switch to a stable server if any failover happens. Then do we think any check we need to do if we are conducting the audit on those kind of infrastructure? So how do we kind of assure or test the failover part, which is happening in the big cloud vendors like AWS or Azure?
So auto scaling, security audit is a big topic. I won't be able to cover here, but yeah, there are ways to actually, monitor this.
Okay, so I think there are a lot of questions, but yeah, other interesting question around from an anonymous person. But yeah, what are the challenges while auditing big data platform like Hadoop? So any kind of tips in that area?
Sorry, man, I won't be able to comment on that.
Hadoop, okay, no problem. So that's perfectly fine. All right. So again, I'm just coming to the threat perspective. So there's a question from Ranjit Singh. What are the major threats in the cloud computing where as an auditor we should emphasize? A few examples, please.
The most important place where you keep your data, those things needs to be secured first. In terms of cloud computing, it is in AWS, it is RDS and the S3. So as I said, like and one more thing, the Lambda. Now Lambda is having one security control which is related to stopping it being over permissive. So there is a habit of developers to actually give lots of permissions to Lambda, which can allow data leakage. For example, S3, as I said, S3 can has having multiple type of controls. There is a control like which can stop anybody from deleting any data from S3 without using MFA, multi-factor authentication. So these are the components which should be on the priority list where your data is stored. And after that, we have to check for the security of the other components. For example, EC2 instances. Now EC2 instances can have their own security threats. Somebody can take over a secure EC2 instance, and if there is no EDR running on it, you will probably not get to know. So and later on they can actually take over some other infrastructure components within your infrastructure. But if you have to go one by one, so of course we have to do audit of all these things, but start with the storage points, then go to the infrastructure components, and then go to the other components like security monitoring, etc. First check for the preventive controls, then go for the detective controls.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that answers, and I have, I think in the interest of time, I have another 2 more questions before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So the question is from, I think we have talking about cloud and audit. So definitely, I think SOC has not come in the picture now. So Aravind Rao's question, as an external auditor, can we rely on the SOC report to get comfort around the underlying internal controls within the organization? who's taking the cloud service. So how much of reliance we can place on this SOC 2 reports?
SOC 2 report is pretty reliable.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's a big, topic. It covers so many controls. But in my personal experience, what I have seen is that like AWS says that they are SOC 2 compliant. Of course, you can download that report. But in my personal experience, once AWS has given you infrastructure to operate, the way you configure your infrastructure on AWS is something different. You may be missing on some security controls. AWS in itself would have, implemented the controls. That's why they are proving that, yeah, we are secure. But the people or the organizations which are using AWS infrastructure, they may not have configured it well. So we can rely. So if your customer is saying that I'm configured on, I have implemented my infrastructure on AWS and my application is based out of AWS, you can be assured that okay, base level security is there. But what about the customer's own security? There are few things which are beyond AWS control. So we have to capture those points as well, and that's why it's required to do the audit of the components which fall in the responsibility of the consumer from roles and responsibility metrics perspective.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the complementary user entity controls.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And Atul, the final question of the session. So what are the skills and competencies we should really develop either as an auditor or a security professional when it comes to cloud? And can you give some kind of a 2 or 3 step approach, like where to start and where to progress and kind of get this cloud skills? Yeah.
So I'm a techie and my approach is, I'm just trying to explain. I would say that the best approach is to start from ground up. I would say CCSK is the best security certification, which gives a very good foundation of cloud security. So first we should do CCSK. The person who is aiming to be a cloud auditor should do CCSK, understand the cloud and the cloud security, and then actually start doing hands-on on a particular, select any one cloud provider. I prefer AWS, it could be anyone, and do hands-on, try to implement some base level infrastructure, try to get a feel of what S3 is. What if you're going to audit and if you do not know how S3 looks like on the screen, it doesn't make sense. So try to get a feel of S3, EC2 infrastructure, Lambda, try to generate an infrastructure of your own, try to implement some IAM related controls. AWS provides, I think, an year or something of free tier. There are so many things which are free in the free tier for an year. So try to implement those things, try to understand the controls, and then try to start implementing. Means if there is any third-party software present which is available through free tier, then try to start implementing that. And once you have all this base level knowledge, then perform a security audit of any, if you get a chance, perform a technical security audit of any infrastructure. You will get to see so many new things when you do the audit of a particular production environment. For example, there are so many good things which are not present in free tier, or as I said, cloud conformity and all. These tools may not be available if you are doing hands-on on your own, but they may be available for if you do the audit of a production environment. So these are the 3 steps. First, understand the cloud, understand the security, do some hands-on, and then try to get a project on production cloud security audit.
Thank you, Atul. I think, again, as you said, even ISACA has come up with their new certification along with CSA, right? The
Yeah.
CCNA certification. Yeah, good place to start with. I think thanks, Atul. I think it has been a wonderful session. I think we ran 10 minutes over. But again, a quick reminder to the participants, please put your feedback in the Menti code, which is displayed there. So this feedbacks will help us to organize future sessions, and we would kind of definitely improvise on it. Thank you so much, Atul, for being a good speaker. And I think we had a very interesting topic on this Saturday evening. I hope we spent well. And a quick announcement before we wrap up. I think there is one CPE for attending this particular SLB session. And if you are a ISACA